So thank you all for joining this call live. And
Yeah.
my name is AC Hill. I'm the co-director with Gabriel Mojay of the Actaea Institute. It's a brand new herbal and aromatherapy school, both online and in person. And we're doing this free 1 hour class all about rose, and it's a bit of a preview for our online diploma program where we're gonna be diving into rose and about 200 plants in this 9 month course that starts in October until and goes until June of next year. And so, if you'd like to learn more about that, you can stay for the after party, and we're going to be sharing all about that. Um, and we're just going to give another moment for folks to arrive. I'm not sure why
Um,
the poem is not, I'm not able to like drop it in the chat. Maybe it's too many words. There we go.
yeah.
Okay, I deleted some things.
Oh yeah, lovely. Thanks. By
Great.
the way, Sunny, we're not doing anything live in terms of medicine making right now in this class. AC is going to be outlining it, so you don't have to worry about getting ingredients together or anything on this occasion.
Totally. Yeah, we'll save that kind of like
Mm,
live medicine making for the diploma program, but for
yeah,
now you'll hear an overview of the energetics of rose from Gabriel, and then you'll hear some of my favorite rose medicines that I like to incorporate into my apothecary,
yeah,
and some of the favorite rose varieties that I use. Um,
yeah,
and you'll be able to get this recording as well as all of the PDF slides that we're going to be sharing in the follow-up
yeah,
email.
yeah.
So you'll be able to make stuff on your own. Yeah, no problem.
And the video too, we have of you making the glycerin.
Yeah, we have just a 2 minute video of me making a rose glycerin. So I
Yeah,
personally
sure.
am a visual
Mm.
learner, and I love to see other people do the thing that I'm learning how to do and then get my hands in and make the medicine. So whenever I teach classes locally, it's always like a demo style. I'm always like, here is all of the ingredients. Here are all the supplies. Let's put it together. People get their hands dirty. So it's really hard to do that kind of thing online. But we have some tools and we have some practice, and we've been trying to make online sessions way more engaging. And we love the live, engaging classes like this where people are able to attend and we can see their faces. So if you have the ability to put your video on, we love that. We encourage that. No big deal if you can't. We encourage any sort of cameos of cats entering, kids entering, eating food, drinking. Like we are all used to living our lives partially online and partially in person. So we'll do our best to make this class engaging for everybody. So, that being said, I'm going to ask everyone to write into the chat where they're calling in from. I'm very curious to hear where folks from this call are. So just give me a moment to share screen, and I will pull up this Magic Maps feature. We're using Stream Alive, which is a online app that helps with visual engagement. So I'm going to go ahead and share Stream Alive. And then if you could write into the chat the name of the city and
Yeah,
state you're calling in from, and
yeah.
then screen.
So the
So,
name, where are we from or where are we located?
where you're calling in from
Yeah,
today would be
yeah.
cool.
Just put the place as well. You don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Then it will work.
Singapore, wow, New Jersey, Rob,
Wow.
Gold Hills, Colorado. I'm gonna move the map around
Yeah.
in a
New
little bit.
Jersey, Bulgaria, Argentina, New Jersey, British Columbia, Courtney. Oh, yeah. Netherlands. Oh,
Wow.
wow. St. Jason,
Florida.
Augustine, Florida, San Diego, Boston.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Calgary.
yeah.
Wow, this is
Fantastic.
awesome.
Yeah.
Lots from the States and Canada.
Yeah. What about the Far East? I didn't see that again.
Let's
Do we
see.
have any?
Oh, here we
Oh,
go.
yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Wicked. Yeah, we're covering the whole globe.
So cool.
Well, you can't do that in person. That's one good thing about Zoom.
Yeah. This is so awesome.
Wow.
All
Fantastic.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, y'all. That's so cool to see where everyone is from.
Mhm.
Um, so if you haven't already set your camera to gallery mode, you can do that now. If you haven't already grabbed something that's rosy, like a rose tea or rose
Helpful.
tincture
Just
or a
some
picture of a
rosado.
plant, yes, or the rose absolute rosado essential oil. I have a little jar of roses ready to sniff at any point. I need a little boost, so and yeah, just thanks again for being here today. This is really awesome to be in person or at
Yeah.
least online live with all of
Yeah.
you.
Totally.
So, if you did bring something, Rose, I would love to hear how Rose makes you feel. So, I'm going to ask you to type into the chat, and if you have your rose ready to smell, or if you can just think about Rose, if you don't
Mm.
have something rosy, and think about how it makes you feel. And then I'm going to ask you to type into the chat how Rose makes you feel. And I'm going to share screen again and we'll be able to see right on the screen people's responses.
Mm.
So, how does Rose make you feel? And you can type it into the chat now. And Thera says,
Oh,
love.
yeah. Oh,
Oh, I love
nice.
that.
Yeah.
Robin says, calming.
Yeah.
Gabriel says, whole.
Calming. Yeah.
Rhea says, calm.
Yeah.
Oh, another love from Margaret and loving from Lacey. Another calm from Susan.
Yeah.
Special. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Odell says unconditional love.
yeah.
Safety. Passionate. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is soft, it's
Totally.
calming, but
Oh,
it's
look at this.
passionate. Absolutely, Jessica.
Yeah.
Warm from Karen. Romantic. Josephine says, every time I walk into the rose garden, I hum the song. Ah, I missed it. Confidence from
Oh, it's
within.
in the chat. Yeah. It's beautiful.
In love with
Mm.
me. Heck yes. Heart connected and grounded. Happy, calm, very feminine, connected.
Mm.
Connected. Both Suzanne and Sunny say connected.
That's
And
nice. Yeah.
deeply sensual. I concur. Yes, these are all wonderful
Yeah. Thank
responses.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much
Beautiful.
for
Yeah.
sharing.
Getting us in the rose mood.
It does get us in the rose mood. I feel
Yeah.
like that just brought me from my head where I'm, kind of facilitating and organizing and making things happen right into the heart and like
Yeah.
imagining that feeling that Rose gives us just
Mm.
washing over me. So I really appreciate you all
Mm.
sharing that. And without further ado, I would love to introduce my co-director of the Actaea Institute, Gabriel Mojay, who's been an herbalist, author, educator, and aromatherapist for decades now. And he is going to share about the energetics of rose with a 20-minute slideshow. And then we will switch to me and I'll share a 20-minute slideshow about some of the rose preparation so that you can make medicine out of rose on your own. So, Gabriel, are you ready to take it away, my dear?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, AC. And thanks for being such a great MC too,
Cheers.
and introducing the class so nicely. Welcome again, everybody. People were popping in, and I just want to say, yeah, I already said hi to a few people, but I think since then there's been Marianne, Emiliano, and Rhea. And so, hi, everybody. Let me share my show, because that's then we can get going. And I'll put it in full screen. So once again, welcome. And we're very excited because this was inspired by the wonderful time that we had on the couple of weeks ago, actually, when we looked at the astrology of the rose. And that was in promotion of my astrological herbalism class, which has started, but we've had a couple of late joiners, actually. This one today is well, it's going into really our flagship realm, represented by our diploma course, as I think AC mentioned, of course, that, and it's a reflection of that. It's a reflection of our combined perspectives, you know? So you can kind of get the best of both worlds, hopefully, and you can convey that today. I will be in particular, before AC, as she said, looks at extracts, looking at energetics, therapeutic energetics, rooted particularly in Chinese medicine. The byword for that is TCM. It stands for traditional Chinese medicine. And but that does play very nicely into the way we work with plant medicine in what we call the functional way, which is the foundation of the Western herbalism. Anyhow, so yeah. So part one, energetics. Part two, medicinal extracts. And I thought it was a good idea. There's quite a few, rose, and of course the Rosacea family, indeed, full of medicinal plants that are a blessing to humanity. I'm going to cover, AC is going to mention some others even, but I'm going to cover two or three of the main aromatic ones, most importantly, starting with the source of what is really the principal origin of rose essential oil, not the absolute, that's the centifolia, where a solvent extract is employed. So it's the Damascena, which, of course, we're going to be emphasizing, looking at Rose Otto in particular. However, I want to say that when we talk about energetic therapeutics of rose, I'm going to be covering some really fundamental aspects of that, really essential to grasp, as you'll see. And that principal action which rose possesses beyond all other medicinals, I would argue, is its ability to nourish the yin. And whatever form you use it in, it does have that essential quality, even though other extracts will vary in other ways. Now, the first damask roses that were used, as I said, for the rose essential oil, we also call Rose Otto, were brought from Persia to Thrace, now Bulgaria. We have someone from there. By soldiers of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC, long time ago. By the 13th century, vast gardens were planted with roses in Kasnalak and elsewhere. And this is the Valley of the Roses, I think I did allude to last time, where cultivation was sustained due to this favorable climate and soil conditions. And what evolved was this use of copper stills, in this gulpan traditional method, now replaced now with steel stills. But still, an important principle mentioned in passing with damask rose production is something called cohobation traditionally, where in fact the rose, the initial watery byproduct or aromatic water produced, of course, through distillation, is recycled and helps to enrich the final product, the final Otto, and that's called cohobation. But here's some modern day examples of Bulgarian distillation of our beautiful damask rose. And whereas the centifolia, pictured, I took a photo here in India when I was visiting on an aromatic plant tour of south of India in 1999. Rosa centifolia, or Provence rose. And if you ever get to journey to this land, you'll find that those who do the harvesting in the rose orchards and the most dedicated and humble servants of the land. And it's very humbling to visit people in India who growing aromatics and make that possible. Now, of course, centifolia, to produce the rose absolute, Rosa centifolia, it is most suited to solvent extraction, and that's why it's used to make the rose absolute. Very popular for use in perfumery, you know. But here's a picture I took. Now, that's actually, I think that's jasmine sambac there, not rose, but it's the same method and process. And that's hexane coming through. It smells like gasoline, actually. You can get some rose absolute produced from an alcohol solvent, and that's the one I would, ideally recommend. The company Oshadi sell that. So it's, it's under pressure, but it's under some pressure, not the same pressure as steam distillation, but it's a cold method of extraction, and then it goes through a final filtration. So that's a centifolia. And then I thought I would mention, although I think AC mentions it too, because I'm going to refer to a product made out of the petals of beech rose. Okay, that's the Rosa rugosa. Although in many ways, this species is best known in many quarters for the rosehip oil and the wonderful properties it has for the skin. Really, I tell you, I shortlisted this one along with borage oil with all the research. Rosehip oil, there's nothing like it, blended with others for daily skin treatment. Yeah, oh yeah. Now, including with rose water, actually, that's the best method of water cleaning and toning the skin. Now, let's go into looking at history and at the same time, what do we actually, can we pin down energetics? Because, that's what I like to do on this. It's fascinating anyway. I could give a whole class on the different forms of, energetics, but I want to hit home, especially with what we call fragrance and taste energetics, as you'll see. Anyway, it was Ibn Sina or Avicenna, talking about Rose Otto, who was the first to distill it. And he, for example, included it in many formulae in the 11th century for vesicular eruptions, with blisters. Decoction of date and figs with fennel water. That's good. Improve the microbiome, right? When the rash is fully out, give rose and myrtle water baths. Then apply rose oil to the skin. Already then, centuries ago, that's how old our medicine is. But he also says something which really alludes to this energetic idea of the body. And especially being influenced as he was by Aristotle, the soul permeates the substance of the bodily organs and flows through them as essence flows in roses, oil in olives, or fire in charcoal. And what this is a real apprehension of this body-mind understanding of health and disease, that the soul and the body are one, and that we can understand that in this way we call energetics. It's a parallel. Now, I love quoting Peter Holmes, probably my biggest influence in terms of energetic therapeutics, with his book came out in 1989, Energetics of Western Herbs, because I think he really hits the bullseye. The idea of qi in Chinese medicine is paralleled in Greek medicine by pneuma, which also means, by the way, breath and air, like qi does, and prana in Ayurvedic medicine, again, also breath. I won't go there today, but that's an important principle as well. But you can see that each tradition had its own understanding of what this word was. And I think Peter Bike calls it a configurative force. It's conceiving, it's configurative, cosmic origin, it's everywhere, whose function is to create in the body and maintain all physiological energies. So it's functional as well. But let's ground it, because people did say when they smell rose, it does bring out the sensual, and that's good because that's what energetics is as well. Greek and Chinese herbal medicine make no real distinction between the quality of a medicinal plant per se, its taste and fragrance, and its actual functional effects. You can read it, the qualities such as aroma, the heat and coldness, moisture and dryness. This is energetics. It's very sensory. Sweetness, spiciness, sourness. And he described these as their dynameus. Lisa Ganora refers to the eclectic concept of the diffusive effect that you initially get from any remedy. And also I've noticed that more recently, Simon Mills talks about sensory impact. That's the dynameus. And then their functional effects on the body. That's the energia. Hey, Percy. And I thought this was nice because AC has been working, for example, with Deb Sewell, who I met, lovely person. And this is from her website. I thought I would quote it because she really brings home this connection between taste and energetics. Because she describes it sweet, cooling, aromatic, opening, soothing, diffusive, there you go, and moistening as well. Very important, because I'm going to come to that. As you'll see, even smelling the oil helps your skin to maintain moisture. Can you believe that? You'll see, I'll prove it to you from research. When should you reach for it? If you're feeling hot and bothered, because it's a way to calm, center, and connect the self and others, and to celebrate life. And, of course, so much more, as an ally during childbirth and postpartum. And look how ancient this understanding is. It goes right back to this fabulous book that I noticed Trey Marie mentioned to me as well, herbalist near Syracuse, the Trotula, a book, this famous book from Salerno, the port town in Italy, where it was, I tell you, that town was a good place to live if you had health problems, because it was full of women who practiced this, and many of them were called Trota. And out of these three texts, here's an image of her. She was the author of the one on treatments and wrote, on difficulty of birth, a woman giving birth with difficulty should be bathed in a decoction of mallow, fenugreek, linseed, and barley. Let her sides, belly, and hips be anointed with rose oil. Amazing, beautiful postpartum and helping that. And, this also, I think, intersects with its overall ability as a gentle tonic. Al-Kindi in the 9th century used it to and again, the heart, always the heart, fortifying the heart in that gentle tonic way. Delay old age. Now we know why, all the reasons. It's a powerful antioxidant, liver cleanser. And again, coming back to its reproductive tonic ability to increase fertility, and, just as used in its helping a mother to give birth. Yeah. And the other, of course, dimension coming to it now is its cooling dimension. And that's what I wanted to emphasize, that Al-Kindi, for example, used rose water to quieten the blood where there is skin inflammation. This is a consistent understanding, East and West. Heat in the blood, toxicity in the blood comes out on the skin as skin inflammation. Rose can work in both ways. As a tincture, it can help it as an alternative to cool the blood. And of course, we know its wonderful benefits for external application at low dilution. This cooling ability, of course, St. Hildegard understood. She wrote, Rosa is cold, and this coldness contains moderation, which is useful. And rose is good, therefore, to add to potions, unguents, and all medications. Even if a little rose is added, they are so much better due to the good virtues of the rose. And that's even a common practice now. And then finally on this to bring it home, I think Gerard again wrote, and even the distilled water, good for strengthening again the heart, refreshing of the spirits, yes. And likewise, all things that require this gentle cooling. So what is this about? Well, I would say this is where the TCM energetics comes in this really fundamental understanding of how rose works in its own special way. And it goes back to this fact, and I'm hitting home here, that heat and fire, as we say in TCM, yes, they disturb and unsettle the Shen. And that's why its cooling ability is also calming to the mind very much, and especially for anxiety and anxious depression. But the thing is that heat and fire, there's two types, okay? You can get too much yang, that can cause heat and fire. But yin deficiency is a terrain that gives rise to what we call empty heat, okay? It's empty because symptoms like the hot flashes and anxiety that accompany it, that comes from a lack of yin, like more than too much heat, more than too much toxicity. You need more cool, moist, nourishing yin energy, Adjust the diet, lots more vegetables, more yin quality foods, seaweeds that are rich in minerals, because this is particular imbalance out of the main ones. Here's the normal, yin and yang is normal, okay? Deficient yang, we can see there's not enough yang. What do you need? Ginger to raise the yang when there's cold, okay? Coming from within. And then there's excess yang. That's when a lot of heat and toxicity builds up in the liver. You need things like German chamomile. Rose, too, helps that. There's evidence of that, especially in the liver. But even deeper, I would say, to focus just today, here is where it hits home. It raises the yin through its cool, moist, calming, gentle tonic action. That's its key thing. And what it does, what rose does, out of the different functions of yin and yang in the body, okay, that polarity between energizing, calming, warming, cooling, transforming, and nourishing, they work together in synergy. But if you don't have enough yin, especially women during menopause, the yin can become deficient for a while. You need these yin tonics like rose. And what it does, its gentle strength increases the yin ability to calm, cool, and nourish, okay? So that's really the essence of it. And that's why here is this symptoms. You don't necessarily have all of them, but it's just to give you a picture. This is what we call a pattern in TCM. It's kind of the heart of what I teach, because when you learn these, it gives you a lot of confidence as a diagnostician in natural medicine terms. Because when you see that a person has this picture, or not every single symptom, feeling hot with night sweats, hot flashes, and perhaps they've got insomnia and anxiety, feel insecure, you're going to know, I've got to think of all those remedies that raise the heart yin again and nourish it over time every day. And rose, of course, as I'm saying, it's the supreme medicine for that. It tonifies and nourishes the heart yin, and therefore clears the heat and empty, that empty heat. Empty because it's heat that's coming from a lack of something, a lack of yin. And that's how it is so calming and comforting to the yin. And finally, last slide pretty much, because this is amazing. Well, first, it's already known that rose, even the inhalation, is found that the essential oil's action is very comparable and beneficial. All these modern anxiolytics that are taken, the serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Well, lavender and rose give much better options here and do a very similar and more holistic way of working to benefit the serotonin, with no side effects, though, that come from those other medicines. And that's why it's so important as a key aromatic intervention for anxiety. And finally, even smelling the oil, this is interesting, will help the body maintain moisture of the skin, because ongoing nervous tension, did you know, can result in chronic activation of what is the core hormonal system of the body, which is this HPA axis, the hypothalamal pituitary adrenocortical axis, very foundational. Well, if you're stressed all the time, and that's going to hyperfunction, and that can induce what is called skin barrier disruption, okay? And that can lead to transepidermal water loss and dry skin. Hey, good news. Smell your oil every day, even just like as a practice to feel centered. That will even, just smelling it. Of course, you can add salves as well. Even smelling it, research on humans has shown that inhalation of rose oil can limit this stress-induced disruption of the skin barrier through balancing the HPA axis. And you know what? That is so much evidence of a yin nourishing action, because it's keeping your moisture. It's keeping your skin moist, just smelling it. So I think I've always wanted to share that incredible research and why I think it brings home, and how we can even look at research in an energetic way to see how rose really does bring, really does bring yin to the heart. So that's for your reference in a summary. This was my last slide. There's more actions, but I'm just about slightly over 20 minutes, so I've got to stop now, but I've reached the end, and this is for your reference more, but it really sums up I think there's more besides, but the key benefits, its fragrance, taste, energy, its main functions I've explained, and all the key symptoms that it can benefit accordingly, based on this way of reading the person, their body, using the wonderful benefits that you get from that traditional Chinese diagnosis. So thank you, Finny, and I'll hand back over. Although now I know we have a little multiple choice test, don't we? Because I'm hoping I was able to keep you on your toes. It's not too hard, though, and it kind of just reinforces more than anything what I've been explaining. So, yeah, AC, I think, do you have that, Andy?
Yeah, so we're gonna have a little multiple choice quiz. And
Yeah,
before that, just real quick, thank you, Gabriel. That was super
thanks.
interesting and
Sure.
helpful. And I loved all of the photos that you chose. And thanks for everyone in the chat. Also, some people are excited. Great presentation, standing ovation, encore.
Oh,
And there were some
sweet.
questions too that we can get to at
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
end.
but we'll do the questions at the end so I can give
Yeah, so
AC a
save your
chance.
question for the end. Or if you wanted to type them into the chat, our handy dandy Stream Alive bot collects anything
Yeah.
with a question mark so that we can see them all in one place. So pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen again. And I put in the chat the question for you to think about. And then in a moment, you can type in your answer by just typing in the number 1, 2, or 3. Gabriel, do you want to pose the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, so as I've said, rose is the supreme tonic of the heart yin. That's why it's so good for anxiety. Okay, you've got three choices. The key symptoms of yin deficiency, are they lethargy, chilliness, and pale tongue? Are they nervous tension, muscular stiffness, and purple tongue? Or restlessness, heat, and thirst with a red, possibly cracked tongue?
Hmm. So
Wow, everybody's got coming up with the same answer. I wonder why. Pretty much.
yeah, thank you. So you can type in 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is yin deficiency. It's cool seeing this working, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so we're getting real-time answers
Yeah.
here. 16% so far think number 2, and 84% so far think number 3. And
Yeah.
we have no one for number 1. Oh, 1, 1. So we'll see. Well, thanks everybody for participating in the no
Yeah.
pressure, no
Yeah.
stakes quiz. Shall we show the correct answer?
Oh, yeah, I think that
Great.
they
Drum
can show that. Is
roll.
it? What? Oh, there should be a check by 3, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so the correct answer is
Yeah.
3. I don't
Now,
know.
I want to say no one is wrong in a way, though,
Yeah.
because actually, yes, number 3 does define the what heart yin deficiency is. You know, again, it's that empty heat. And a lack of cool moisture comes out on the tongue with a lack of coating. So the tongue can be cracked even. But number 2, in a way, wasn't really wrong if in terms of Rose's action. It's not yin deficiency, but Rose does help nervous tension as well. But the second answer was that main condition of stagnation, and Rose helps that too. Anyway, let's time to thank you so much, and everybody passed, by the way.
Yes.
Let me hand over to AC, and we can look at medicinal extracts. Thank you, AC.
Awesome. Thank you. Before I hit my share screen again to do my slideshow, I'm just going to drop into the chat 2 Rose products that I want to share before, once I start sharing screen, I can't really get to the chat easily. And so if people want to work with Rose products right away, I love these 2 products from first one from Avena Botanicals. Deb Sol was mentioned by Gabriel in his slideshow. It's an elixir of rose. It's a glycerin and alcohol blend. And then the other is a flower essence of rose, and that's made by our dear friends at Woodland Essence. Kate
Yeah.
Gilday is the owner of that. So check those out. But I also want you to make your own medicine, which can take a little while, can take a few weeks to prepare. So in case you're ready to just work with rose right away and you don't have any rose products in the house, I recommend those 2 things to check out. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and present my slideshow. Let me just pull it up and get started. Just make sure I share with, yes, here we go. All right, can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Great. So, greetings again to everybody who joined the call after our warm up. My name is AC Hill, and I'm the co-director of the Actaea Institute of Herbal Medicine and Aromatherapy. I'm also a co-host of a podcast with my husband, Isaac Hill, called the Plant Cunning Podcast. And you can find that on Spotify, YouTube, under Plant Cunning. And we interview really interesting herbalists, farmers, people who work with plant medicines, people who are into astrology and magic. And it's a really fun weekly show. I'm also an herbalist and a farmer. I grow the herbs that I use in my own herbal product line called Traveling Herb Farmer. And we have a small homestead and herb farm here in central New York. And I love teaching what I know about herbal medicine. I'm a student of Seven Sung from the Northeast School of Botanical Medicine in Ithaca. And I love doing these hands-on demo style. So I'm going to do my best to show you some of the ways that I incorporate rose into my own home apothecary with this short workshop. And we're going to cover working with rose, the parts of the plant that we use, the places that I like to get rose from, if not from my own garden, and just a few safety implications. And then we'll talk about some of my favorite rose remedies with including some recipes and how-tos. So Gabriel's talked a lot about the energetics of rose and why we might incorporate rose medicine into our home apothecary or our practice. And if just to synthesize it, basically for me, rose is all about the heart. It's about softening and opening the heart. But with those thorns, it also brings a protection and boundaries that are so important when we open our heart. We have to know when to have some armor up as well. And I feel like rose is a really beautiful example of that. The softness, the deliciousness, the fragrance of it. And I use rose anytime there is heartbreak, sadness, grief. I put it in my Heart Helper blend, which is a tonic blend for the heart that includes hawthorn berry and flower, motherwort for an anxious heart, and rose glycerin, which is a sweet, heart-opening, delicious medicine to kind of offset some of the bitterness. And so if you are able to access a fresh, growing in the wild or in the garden rose plant, I really encourage you to get to know that rose plant living, beautiful. There's different types of rose plants. There's the garden roses, there's wild roses, and I'm going to get into some of the varieties, but getting to know a rose plant in the flesh is a really special way to work with rose. And I just want to say off the bat that using roses that you get from the grocery store or from the florist are not recommended for any sort of internal or external medicinal use. So what kind of roses do you want to use? I'm going to start off with the one that's wild/invasive or aggressive to my area, which is Rosa multiflora, the multiflora rose. It has these beautiful white, sometimes pinkish flowers. And it has these little tiny rose hips that you can harvest this time of year up where I am in the northeast of New York. So Rosa multiflora is a common rose that you can get to know. So if you walk through the woods, you might find these prickly bushes with these little rose hips on them. Another one is the beach rose. If you live on a coastal place, the Rosa rugosa or beach rose has these giant fat hips, as you can see in this picture. And it's pretty easy to start from seed. So if you are on a beach and you see these rose hips, you can grab the biggest one that you find and then plant the seeds in a little bit of soil and transplant them into your garden once they're growing a few inches tall. And Isaac harvested one of these giant rose hips from the beach when we were visiting my mom in Plymouth, like in Boston area, Massachusetts. And now we have a whole rose hedge growing on the side where our mailbox is. So eventually we'll have these beautiful, big, bushy roses. They're still small now, but I encourage you to try that, starting them from seed. And then another type of rose that you might find in more gardens. This is a really nice rose to grow. The Rosa gallica officinalis, the apothecary rose. And I have one of these in the gardens. And it hasn't started blooming yet, but I'm really looking forward to that. And it's just super aromatic. Any rose that smells really good and is grown in a garden that's not using pesticides is a rose that you're likely able to use. So different colors you can use. The ones that don't have any scent, are not the best ones for medicine. So that's just one little rule of thumb. And then one last rose that I wanted to mention that also grows along the coasts in all over Europe and parts of North Africa and parts of Asia and parts of the Canada and US East Coast is dog rose or Rosa canina. It's another fairly aggressive rose on this side of the country. But it is the rose that was mentioned in that poem. If you were here for the beginning, before we started the presentation during the waiting room, we had a little song with the 18th century Scottish poet that featured this plant, dog rose, growing where he was in Scotland. So these are my roses. There's the rose on the left is a bush that was here before I moved in, and I haven't ID'd it yet, but it looks kind of like an apothecary rose or damask rose, and it smells absolutely fantastic. I've spread it around through root cuttings, and I usually use this one to make my rose medicine. And then I use the multiflora rose on the right for the rose hip medicine because it's super abundant and it's kind of helpful when you have an invasive/abundant plant to harvest the seeds of it to limit its growth in a forest where it might take over. As they say, if you can't beat it, eat it. And just a few notes on harvesting and wildcrafting in general. Whenever I discuss harvesting a plant in the wild, I like to talk about how to be in right relationship with nature in general and with the spirits of the land, with the plant spirits. And these are a few of the notes on wildcrafting that I like to share. So when you're harvesting, it's great to ask for permission and to wait for an answer. And sometimes you can't hear an answer if you're in your head. And so dropping from your head to your heart is sort of the first step. And a lot of times I do this by just giving gratitude and by being grateful for the plants. They're literally sacrificing parts of themselves or sometimes their whole self if you're harvesting a root. And it's crucial that we honor and appreciate that exchange and show our gratitude in whatever way is meaningful to us. Sometimes I bring an offering. Sometimes I go back and have a perennial relationship with a plant or a wild patch of plants and observe them throughout the season. I'll harvest seeds and I'll spread them around. And when you're working with plants that are endangered, I was looking for the word endangered, then you might not harvest any, or you might harvest just a small amount of that plant, 10%, maybe up to 30 plants if it's 30% of the plants if it's a very abundant plant. And I encourage you to check out United Plant Savers. They have a whole list of endangered, at-risk species. So you can run through that if you're curious about wildcrafting plants other than rose. And I'm just going to share one example of a prayer of gratitude from one of my herbal inspirations, Rosita Arvigo. She studied with my elder, Don Eligio, and this was the prayer that he taught her to say whenever they were harvesting plants from the wild. And the part that I really love about this is, I have faith with all of my heart in your great healing power to help the people. And you really are putting your trust into the plants to help with the medicine. And when they say yes and they give themselves willingly, your medicine is stronger. So do what works for you, whatever prayer, whatever offering, and listen for the answer, and then harvest away and make some great medicine. So let's get into the medicine and how we work with the rose, starting with the parts used. So I mostly use the petals and the rose hips. Some people use leaf as well, but I haven't really worked with it in that way. So I'm using mostly the petals and the rose hips. The buds are also something that you can use in the early spring, but I tend to not harvest too many of them because I really do want the petals. And so I like to let them go into their flowering stage, but they're really fun for crafts. You can string them up and make little hanging rose petal decoration with like a rose bud and a bead and another rose bud and a bead. So they are fun to have a few of, and they're also really pretty in tea blends. So you can just harvest them with your fingers or with like a clipper, like a Felco clipper or strong scissors. But I find they do just pop off with your thumb. I use a little bit of my thumbnail. And then you can dry them out on some screens or in a food dehydrator, which is my preference here. It's very humid and it takes a long time to dry things. So popping them in the dehydrator really does make sure that they're fully dried to a crisp. And then you can also, of course, use the rose petals for medicine. So when the flowers are fully open in the early morning is when I like to harvest them. And you can dry them on screens or again in a dehydrator. You don't want to go too hard in the dehydrator. Keep an eye on it so they don't get overly dried and crisp and brown. And then you can store the roses in a glass jar or an airtight bag or bin. And here are some of the places that I like to buy herbs from if I can't grow it myself or if I run out of something in my apothecary when I'm, working on different medicine making projects. So Oshala Farm in Oregon is a really great medium-sized herb farm that has organic practices and really cool owners. Pacific Botanicals is a bigger company that Gabriel just told me in our prep for this that it was bought out by Herb Farm recently. And they do get herbs from international growers, but they also have a farm and grow their own. Healing Spirits Herb Farm is a smaller farm, but it's still pretty big, and they have some of the most beautiful rose petals dried I've ever encountered. Zachwood's Herb Farm is Rosemary Gladstar's daughter and her husband's herb farm in Vermont. And Foster Farm also has fresh and dried plant material available in Vermont. So I'll drop the links to the actual websites for you in the chat. So you don't have to like take a screenshot of this now if you want that info. And then just to mention safety again, we just don't want to get grocery store and florist roses for our medicine making. We want to make sure that the plants are free of pesticides because the roses will just sap up all those pesticides and get them from, trusted sources if we do order them from an herb farm. And I have used some dried rose petals from flowers for like craft projects or using dried sprinkled roses for creating like ambiance, like sprinkling down a walkway or something like that, or herbal sachets. So those hybrid tea roses that usually you get at a grocery store usually don't have a lot of scent, but they're great for florists because they last a long time. They have a sturdy stem and they've been produced to have big blooms, but not so much a great scent or those aromatics that we're looking for when we're making medicine. And now we'll get into the remedies. So these are some of the favorite ways that I incorporate rose medicine. I use rose petals dried in tea blends. I use rose infused honey in my tea. I like to leave the rose petals right in the honey and then stir it into my tea. And it makes lovely little rose floaters on the top of your tea. Rose glycerite, rose tincture, and then a rosehip infused vinegar. So using the hips, which are happening this time of year, if you really do want to get out there and make some rose medicine, you can harvest some of the hips right now and infuse them in raw organic apple cider vinegar. And of course, the use of rose essential oils and hydrosols or the rose absolute for sprays and salves. I do like special edition rose salves around Mother's Day because rose absolute, as you may know, is very expensive. And so I just do like a seasonal rose salve and spray for the moms. They love it. And then these are more less internal, remedies, but some other ideas for how to incorporate rose. You can do rose bath soaks, of course. A botanical bath soak with some Epsom salts and floating roses on top is just lovely. People use rose essential oil, rose fragrance, and absolute in soaps. The rose hydrosol and room spray, of course, and rose infused oil for face creams, serums, or salves. Rose petals in potpourri or sachets. So I'm sure there's a bunch of other ways that you can incorporate rose. So if you have any other rose products that I did not mention here, type them in the chat, and we can read through them and see what other ways that people are using rose in their own lives. Here is a sachet that I make around the holidays. And it's a really fun way to go out into nature, collect beautiful nature objects like pine cones and flower petals and hemlock branches and pine branches. And you can mix them in with any aromatic herbs that you might have, rosemary, tulsi, lemon balm, chamomile, mint. And then you can add a little rose petal or some calendula blossoms or bachelor buttons, any type of bright dried flowers to add some color. And you can put in a few squirts of essential oil, like the cedars and balsam firs are really lovely, or the aromatics and minty ones like eucalyptus and peppermint and rosemary, or some citrus ones. So you can have different scent profiles, maybe like a cinnamon and clove, Christmassy smelling one, and then like a citrus one. So you can play with that, or you can use some rose absolute or rose geranium as a cheaper way of incorporating that smell. And then you just make sure everything is dried well, and then you put it into breathable baggies like this one to enjoy. And then anytime it's you want to get a little hit from the aromatic, you can squeeze the sachet and it'll release some more of those smells. So that's one recipe for using roses. Another is incorporating rose tea into, we're incorporating dried rose into a tea blend. So I don't use just straight rose petal for tea usually because it's very astringent and it can make you kind of pucker. If that's what you're going for, if you're, if it's a post-birth hemorrhaging situation, rose petals can just straight as a rose petal tea and compress can come in really handy. Rosita Arvigo, who I mentioned in the Prayer of Gratitude, tells this story of being a young woman and working with this midwife. And a woman is giving birth, and the midwife is really old and she can't even really walk without being bent over. And Rosita was instructed to help this woman who was bleeding after post-birth in a little bit of a scary type of way. She was instructed to go outside and to gather as many rose petals as she could and bring them back and make a strong tea. And they saved that woman's life through simply a rose tea. So time and place, rose can come in handy. But for making it as just like an afternoon tea that I want to enjoy, I use no more than like 10% of the rose petals just to add some color and aroma. And here are some recipes of rose tea that I love to make. So Tulsi rose is my absolute favorite. It's mostly Tulsi and then a little handful of rose mixed in. And then here's a recipe for a heart helper tea blend with linden flower, Tulsi, passion flower, a little bit of motherwort because motherwort's pretty bitter, but we love that anti-anxiety heart effect that motherwort brings to the blend, and a sprinkle of rose petals. So you could use any nervine instead of Tulsi or passion flower or even linden. You can kind of mix it up. Any nervine with just a sprinkle of rose makes for a great tea blend, and that's my little pro tip. Just put a sprinkle of rose in any tea blend. And then I also am including this recipe of rose honey. It's a really simple way to incorporate roses into your apothecary. You basically stuff rose petals into your clean sanitized jar, pressing them down. Then you pour honey over them until they're covered, and you can use a chopstick or a spoon to press them down further. You can add more roses and more petals until the jar is full. And I mentioned before that I like to leave the roses in so I get those pretty little rose floaters, but you can also double boil, heat the rose honey, and then strain it out through a strainer or cheesecloth. Just keep in mind if you want those raw enzymes, you don't want to bring your honey to a temperature over 98 degrees. All right. And rose glycerin is probably my favorite and most used rose medicine. And glycerin briefly is a thick, colorless, very viscous liquid that you can purchase. And you want to just make sure when you're getting it that you go for the organic food grade vegetable glycerin. Organic food grade vegetable glycerin, because they make other types of glycerin that's not for food use. So just be aware of that. And it's nice because it doesn't raise the glycemic index. It's very sweet. So it's surprising that it doesn't do that. But it's a really nice menstruum for kids, for folks who are sober, or for reasons like religion, or maybe it just gives them acid reflux. They abstain from alcohol. So it's a good alcohol-free medicine, and it doesn't work for everything. You can't necessarily infuse every single herb like roots, mushrooms, berries that are thick. Glycerin doesn't do as well, but it works really well for aromatic medicine like roses and for like the mint family, lemon balm, peppermint, catnip, things like that. And so here is a step-by-step how-to written out, make the glycerin. And I actually have a 2-minute video of me doing this. So I'm going to stop share for a moment. And then Gabriel is going to share the video because he was recording the video. And when we tested this on Friday, his computer played nice with the video better than mine. So take it away, Gabe.
Yeah, I'll just let me do that. And thank you. I've got the sound. So just put your thumbs up. You can hear it because I won't be able to. I think. Start at the beginning.
So now I've gotten a bunch of the petals ready and processed by pulling the racemes off, and I'm going to weigh them out on my scale. So I've just hit the tare or 0 to equalize the weight of this container that I'm weighing in. And now I'm going to weigh out, let's see, maybe 2 ounces of the fresh roses. I think will fit in here comfortably. That's 1.9 and 2. And now I'm going to put them into my blender. It smells so good. Oh my gosh. Can't believe it. And now I will weigh out my glycerin. So 2 ounces is what we have for the rose petals. So to get to a 4 ounce, let me tear it again. To get to a 4 ounce, or sorry, a 1-to-4 ratio, I'm going to do 8 ounces of glycerin. Spatula. Glycerin is a very goopy, as you can see, thick menstruum to use. I like making aromatic medicines in glycerins, like roses and mint family herbs. Not a lot of herbs will do well in a glycerin. The more aromatic herbs like the roses and catnip and fennel and chamomile, they all do pretty well in a glycerin, but I wouldn't necessarily use glycerin for roots and mushrooms and a lot of different herbs. So I'm excited that I'm able to make this rose glycerin because it's an alcohol-free and delicious remedy that I can add to some of my other herbs like motherwort, that's a little more bitter, to help encourage people to want to take it. So I'm really excited about this. I'm going to blend it up and then I'm going to scrape it out into my jar and label it. So I'm just going to be bottling this and letting it sit in the glycerin for about a moon cycle. 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the size of the jar that you're doing, is usually sufficient. And it's good to shake your medicines, especially tinctures are pretty easy to shake and then put back on the shelf, but glycerins are so thick. What I like to do is just sort of tilt it upside down and put it back on my shelf like this, and then the next day come back and tilt it this way and work it like that. So that's one way you can do it. And then I'm going to strain it through a cheesecloth and I'm going to squeeze out all of the glycerin that I can from the rose petals. And I like to make a tea for myself with the rose petals and the glycerin. It makes a really sweet tea, but you can add other herbs to it and dilute it. And that's a nice thing to do with your mark or the rose petals. And then the glycerin you have ready to label and bottle for giving away, selling, and it makes a fantastic remedy. So the shelf life of glycerin is a little bit less than alcohol. It usually lasts about a year. So keep that in mind with your batch size and things like that. So enjoy and hope you all get a chance to make some rose glycerin. Cheers.
Oh, there we go.
Gabriel?
Oh, thanks,
Awesome.
AC. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
did you want to finish up?
yeah, here's that how-to again. So you can also basically use these same steps to make a rose tincture. So instead of using the glycerin, you can substitute high-proof organic cane alcohol or Everclear. And you don't need to do the weighing part if you don't want to. I do that so that I have some more consistency with my medicine making, but you can also use the folk method of eyeballing it. So it's similar to making the honey. You basically are just pouring whatever menstruum you're using, honey, alcohol, vinegar, or glycerin over your roses, letting it sit for a moon cycle and straining it out. So that's the short version of how to do rose medicine like that. And I just have a few other recipes before we wrap up here. So here's a recipe for making a aromatic room and body spray. So of course, making a rose hydrosol would be epic, but you need a lot of roses. So if you do have access to rose absolute or even rose geranium, you can do a little blend of rose geranium and rose to make a really nice aromatic room and body spray. And the way I do mine is adding about 10% alcohol to the bottle and then filling the rest up with water, distilled water, and then adding a few drops of the essential oil. So you can sort of test for yourself how much you want to add. But using this example of a 4-ounce bottle, I do about 15 to 20 drops of essential oil to that bottle, which looks like about a table, a little under, looks like a half a dropper full. If you use like a dropper using like a tincture dropper, looks like about a half a dropper full. So there's that rose essential oil recipe. And then lastly is this recipe for incorporating the rose hips. Rose hips are really rich in vitamin C, and they make a lovely winter vinegar to add to salad dressings or to use as a marinade. And one of my favorites is a combo of rose hip and white pine needles. So if you can harvest some white pine and pull the needles off of the stem, you can chop up your needles and you can harvest your rose hips and use your rose hips just whole. You don't have to do any processing to them. You add the rose hips and the pine in about equal parts to your jar, top with raw organic apple cider vinegar, and lid with a nice protective layer of wax or parchment paper because vinegar makes metal lids rust and you don't want that. And so you let that infuse for a few weeks or so, and then you strain through a cheesecloth bottle and label. So there's another really easy way of incorporating the rose hips into a vinegar that you can use all winter long. So in summation, we love roses. We thank you,
Yeah.
roses. They're an aromatic and beautiful addition to tea or a tincture blend. Roses are heart-opening and soothing, and they help to lift the load of a heavy heart. And it's easy to make rose medicine with honey, glycerin, or alcohol. And you can use rose petals or the rose buds in crafts. Someone mentioned in the chat using them for incense. And then the essential oil or rose absolute can be a great aromatic for topical remedies, sprays, soaps, lotions, face creams, and things like that. So thank you all so much for listening. And I'm going to stop share.
Oh, great. Thanks, AC. Thank you.
Yeah. And we will be sending the video and this replay in the chat. Cynthia, you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually too. So you say vinegar makes what? And we don't want that. I couldn't hear the word. I'm sorry.
Oh, rust. It can rust your lid.
Oh,
So the
So that
vinegar
it's-
can react with the metal of your metal lid.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. And also another question. Can we make a perfume with a rose and lavender with a carrier oil, a small perfume? That would be a good combination for calming, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
That would sound great.
In jojoba, yeah.
Yeah. Well, um,
AC, one little question, by the way.
Mhm.
Josephine asked, because I know we've gone a little bit over, but we both
Yeah.
did that little bit. But it was,
All
oh, no, it's fabulous. But Josephine asked about harvesting the hips. How in a bush, like, in terms of allowing the full regrowth, can you give some guidelines on that? Because she was concerned that if you pick them, they won't grow back. But hips, of course, will grow back. But I'm sure there's a balance, is there?
Yeah, once you harvest the hips like that, they're not going to grow back from that
Okay.
place, but you still are leaving, they're the seed of the plant. So you're basically harvesting away that seed for it to be able to be harvested by wildlife and eaten and dropped in other places. but the plant itself will still have its root and it can spread through rhizomes as well. I would say taking like a third is a general rule of thumb from one bush. But just keep that in mind that the rose spreads through rhizome as well.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Yes. So, we're
Yeah.
gonna wrap up here and we'll be sticking around for a few minutes for the after party. So anybody who can stay for another few minutes will be able to answer more questions. And for anyone who has to head out now, we totally understand. But yeah,
Yeah.
welcome to the after party, everybody.
Yeah.
So, did anybody have a question that didn't get answered in class that you would like to ask now?
I just have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
all see the Rose for Chocolate, the film, the movie?
Yeah.
Oh,
With
yeah.
the part of the scene where she cooks with rose petals. Oh my God, it's so nice.
Yeah. Oh my
The
gosh, I
quail.
forgot. Yeah, rose on chocolate. That is such a
No, it was the a quail with the rose petal
fail.
sauce. Yes, I put the on the
Awesome.
chat. I put the picture
Oh,
Cool.
oh, quail. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, that's
with
amazing.
the movie is like water, like chocolate. What is the name of the
Oh,
movie?
yeah, like Chocolate for Water. It's a very
Yeah,
famous film, isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
that's beautiful. That's like a recipe right out of Shakespeare's time,
yeah.
isn't
And
it?
they have the recipe online too.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah.
Ah, yes.
It's yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you
I
so
would
much.
like to
Yeah.
just add that I use rose water a lot in everyday preparations, like just adding just a teaspoon to the
Oh,
water or
yes.
sparkling water, and it makes a great beverage.
Oh,
And,
right. Yeah.
or actually, sometimes I add it to a white wine
Oh, nice.
or
Yeah.
sparkling water
Yeah.
wine.
Yeah.
So it really is amazing. And also, I use it as a spray, and
Yeah.
use the vibration of the rose as well as the smell, the aroma.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I also use it to for my grandsons. For instance, they have their spray when they feel stressed or going to sleep, so they use
Oh,
it.
nice.
Oh, as
Yeah.
also lavender, of course, but they love the smell of the rose.
Yeah.
And they are 9 years old. And actually, I started this when they are smaller, but right now they are 6 and 9, and they love their sprays. And before they go to bed, they just spray the pillows or around them, or it's their perfume. It's like, they spray. It's wonderful.
Mm. Mm.
So cool.
Oh, because you're, of course, being in Bulgaria, you can.
Wow. Yeah, you
You're,
can get a lot of them.
yeah.
Oh,
Is that common among Bulgarians to use rose? Do a lot of traditional kind of people to use it that way, would you say, or are you unique more?
I think that because it is. I think that we are taking for granted, and I think that we need to really get back to a much deeper relationship with the rose.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Beautiful. Yeah.
this is what I love to share with others, with
Yeah.
women,
Mm.
Yeah.
because it's absolutely fantastic. I love both, of course, Rose Alba is also my favorite, but Rose Centifolia and Rose Damascena,
Oh, yeah.
something
Yeah.
I can't go without anywhere. I have hydrozoles, I have essential
Yeah.
oils,
Wow. Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
and especially introducing this to children.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, well, thanks, Evelina.
Yeah,
That's
it
lovely
was
to
a
hear.
great presentation. Honestly, just
Oh,
so wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank
thank
you
you.
both.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun for us too. So thank you.
it was a great
Yeah.
presentation
Oh,
from both of you.
thank
Appreciate
Absolutely.
you.
that.
Yeah. I just want to say hi to Marilyn, actually. Marilyn was, Marilyn just, I saw her face a minute ago come on because she was a student of mine from London. Maybe she'll come back in a minute anyway. That's fine.
Cool.
Does anyone else want to share? Hey, Marilyn. Does anyone else want to share how they, hi, Hi. So lovely to see you. Hi.
I use
Yeah.
the dried rose petals in incense that I
Oh,
make.
yeah.
A combination
Wow.
of different frankincense in small little pieces, and then I put it on my burner, and the rose really comes out between the smell of the frankincense and the smell of the rose. You have to use
Yeah.
dried, but
Yes.
it smells fabulous. I actually put it together and I sell it, and I call it
Oh,
mystical romance incense, because that's what it is.
Mm.
And
it
for the
is, isn't
rose
it?
seed oil, which somebody had told me about because it's very anti-inflammatory, I especially for the
Mm.
face, I mix frankincense Boswellia feriana in it, which I age for about 60 days,
Hmm.
and then I strain it. It comes out
Yeah.
to a beautiful orange type color,
Mm.
and it picks up the resin, the color of the resin and the rose hip, and you get like an orange type color, and it is
Beautiful.
excellent for wrinkles and bags
Yeah.
under the eyes. It's wonderful. And then I
Yeah.
also make it in a butter. I use the rose
Ooh.
hip seed oil with mango and shea butter, and I whip up the whole thing together, and it's a
Yeah.
great skin cream.
Wow.
So there's so
That sounds
many. The
beautiful.
biggest problem I have is the only one who has roses right now is my girlfriend. She grows roses, but she doesn't like to part with them as much of taking them all off her tree,
Oh,
because she tells me if you're going to take them all off, then I have to wait till they grow back. And you can't get
yeah.
them in the stores because everything that's imported from outside the United States that comes into the florist, they're all sprayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no
Like I
way
used to
of
say.
getting them.
Yeah.
And the roses that I'm growing, I was lied to, because
Oh,
I was told that they smell beautiful, except when they're babies, you can't tell. There's no buds on them. So when it actually grew up, they're hybrids, and they're gorgeous, but they have no smell.
right.
Absolutely
Oh,
no
bummer.
smell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those hybrids,
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
they're meant
hybrids.
for beauty, but not smell.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
gorgeous, but they I can't use them.
I just added to the chat the
Yeah.
links to the farms that I mentioned in my slideshow before, of where to order
Yeah.
some dried rose petals from trusted sources. So
Ah, very good.
those are all links, so you can
I
click.
have to find another source for fresh. So if you
Yeah, I
know
think
of a source,
Foster Farm does fresh plants if you like pre-order, and then they ship overnight, like overnight shipping, so it gets to you quickly.
really,
Yeah.
Foster, Foster.
FosterFarmBotanicals.com.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I
Pretty
will.
sure.
Right now, I can't grow anything because we go into the winter months.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
come the spring, I would order from them so that
So
I can
for
plant it.
sure, yeah. And then I think there's also there's a place that you can get rose plants from, and you can get that apothecary rose from them. It's called High Country Roses. And so if you're looking for a plant rather than the petals, High Country Roses has an apothecary rose that you can order.
Oh, that's good, because I want to plant it. I want to take uh, on the side of where I'm growing the roses now. I want to put it in the garden so that it
Yeah,
grows.
you should definitely.
Mm. Mm.
And yeah, so if folks are interested in learning more about herbal medicine in general and about aromatherapy in general, and they like the style that Gabriel and I offer, where Gabriel has so much experience with like the history. He's a great researcher and author, and he understands the traditional Chinese medicine energetics really well. And then I'm more of a hands-on demo style teacher where I want to incorporate herbs into everything I do. And so I love teaching about that. So if you're into that, please check out our website at actaea.org. We have a whole diploma program this is our first year doing this program, but we're really excited. We both have obviously a lot of experience teaching, but it's our first year teaming up together. And our first cohort is starting in October on the 12th. And we meet every Sunday for sessions like this that are live and lively. We're going to be incorporating little quizzes. We're going to be making medicine and then bringing it back next week for show and tell. Everyone is going to leave with more confidence in how to use herbs in their own practice. If you're already a health practitioner, whether we have some massage therapists or acupuncturists or nurses or people who work with the elderly or with children, and they want to use herbs, but they don't know exactly how to incorporate herbs and aromatherapy effectively and safely. That's our goal, is everyone's going to be making medicine, learning how to do it. And we're going to be doing it with this cohort. So I imagine this cohort is going to get tight too. We're going to have people that come together and are there for the learning, but leave as friends and practitioners, because I know with my studies with Seven Song, the group that we went through that 7-month program with, we still come back and meet up and hang out and ask each other questions. And it's really nice to have people to bounce ideas off of. So I'm really excited about this. And if you wanted to check out what we're offering, just go to actaea.org. So I'm just going to share screen so you can see that real quick.
Yeah. And maybe I mention as well, thanks AC, that signing up for the diploma course, you also get free enrollment on a upcoming series of our favorite experts called Friday Forum. And we're having a bonus one even with Robin. I've going to add to it in June. But we're starting with Rebecca Bayer in December. And you can roll on it, just this program on its own. We're going to have a lot more fun with our special guests, but you get it for free if you also join the diploma program, which AC, I think, gave you a great overview of. And yeah, I mean, in a way, today is a little bit like what you see is what you get, you know, and because we love all aspects of Rose, right? As AC said, from the history through to the therapeutics, a little bit of some of the research that I think illuminates the energetics, and all these beautiful medicines that AC is going to show us how to make as part of our journey. So, you know, we've got a lovely group together already. And like she says, it's going to be a little community of learning together in a live and lively way, just like today. So thank you again for all your lovely engagement and questions. I think, Cynthia, did you have one last question before we should let you go?
Yes, please. So
Yeah.
if I want to do a little roller perfume, how many
Yeah.
drops do you think I can put of rose, auto or rose absolute and lavender if I want to mix both? 7, 7?
Well, what you can do in a 10 mil roller, I think you could add quite happily for, you know, that kind of external application. You would be fine to add, I would say, like a couple of drops of rose and say 4 drops of lavender. And that would be a very safe, roughly 2% dilution you could do with some. Very good is to get the fractionated coconut oil is very good for roller application, but that's my tip anyway. But you'll
Okay,
get
great.
more, I'm sure.
And also, if I want to do the rose soak bath
Yeah.
that um, she mentioned, so can we use the roses of the shop or even for a bath are not safe?
I wouldn't do
No,
it.
Okay.
yeah. Just for
Anything that you're going to
decoration.
be putting on your skin or in a bath, you're going to have all your pores open. And so it's still going to get in there. I know it is tempting, but if you want to
Yeah.
do a sprinkle of rose petals as a romantic, like leading up to your bath or on your bed or, at an outdoor
Great idea.
altar, sometimes, I'll
Yeah, but
use
not in
them
the bath.
for,
Not in the bath.
yeah, not
Yeah.
in, not in the
Okay,
bath.
and
Yeah.
could you maybe put some two places where it's a very good rose auto that we
Yeah,
can buy
what I'll do is
or essential oil?
That's great. I'm so glad you asked that, Cynthia. I will give a list of places, companies with the follow-up to this session that everybody will get the recording, and I'm going to include the PowerPoint presentation notes and a list of companies. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'll drop in the
Okay.
chat right now just one more link. It's to
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah, Oshadi. They're good.
Oshadi rose that
Yeah.
Gabriel mentioned earlier that has the Rose
Yeah.
Absolute that you can get.
Yeah. Alcohol based.
Well, the Rose
Okay.
Auto, okay?
hmm
Yeah. 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 I have that.
Yeah, he'll include the Rose Auto as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you a nice good list there and different sources. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all again for
Yeah.
being here live. It was really fun. And
Yeah.
one last thing, if you want to drop an emoji in the chat of what you thought of this session, you can pick any emoji or two and just drop in the chat what emoji describes what you think about the session. Oh, a cute little pink flower. Yes.
Oh, nice. Nice big green heart. Yeah, that's nice. Smiling.
Celebratory smile.
Oh, look at that.
Eyes.
How did they make that happen?
Wow.
That's cool. Oh, celebration. Yes, thank you. It has been seeing everyone.
Absolutely.
Marilyn, thank you. Great to see Marilyn. Oh, yeah. We're lucky to have that emoji, aren't we? Perfect Rose.
Oh my God.
Wow, thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And
Yeah.
it makes it so much
Thanks,
fun.
everyone. It does.
Here
Thanks.
live
Lovely
and
to see everyone.
participating. And we'll have to do this again
Thanks,
sometime.
Jean. Please
Yes, great job.
Email list.
join us again. Yeah. It's a great way to spend a Sunday morning, I should say. For some people, it's evening. And again, thank you for coming all over the world, too. It's lovely to see everyone's happy faces.
Feel free to unmute again and say goodbye as you would say goodbye to your dear friends.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Brilliant.
Thank you
Cheerio.
so much.
Cheerio.
Love you. Thank you.
Bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Y'all are awesome.